is the face of the New York Mets. He's the captain in waiting. He's the guy everybody comes to the ballpark to see. But tomorrow, David Wright takes on a new role, third baseman for his country. David plays his final exhibition game before heading for the WBC this afternoon in Port St. Lucie. Welcome to Spring Training on SNY, presented by Citi. From Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie, Florida, the New York Mets play the Detroit Tigers. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you today as the Mets and Tigers, a month from opening day, play baseball this afternoon. David Wright will play third base and bat third, and then he heads off to Phoenix to join Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. Second time David's gone. He had a great time in '09.
Well, you know, the WBC is once every 4 years, and it is disruptive in spring training. You hate to lose a guy like Wright for 3 weeks. You got a ball club here. He is the leader of this club. His presence is much needed in that clubhouse on a day-to-day basis, you know, but it is what it is. We've got a longer spring training this year, which is another, we're already playing games. We got a whole other full month to play. So David will be back in 3 if they advance, and he's swinging the bat great, I tell you.
Last time the WBC was played 4 years ago, the Mets had 15 players. This year only one off the Major League roster. But for a developing team and a guy who's a leader in the clubhouse, how much does it mean for him to be away for a period of time?
Well, you know, I think it'll be okay. He's gone for 3 weeks maximum, and sure, it's going to be missed. You'd like to have them there. But you know, the Lords to be up there on Park Avenue in New York have decided the WBC is going to be here, and you just have to deal with it. But I don't think it's going to have any real effect. I would rather have David back with 2 weeks left in spring, which means I guess I don't want the USA to win, I guess. For practical purposes, the Mets are the most important thing this season. David's most big importance is being here in uniform right here in St. Lucie.
By the way, save your tweets. I don't want to hear about
tweetsters.
You being anti-American.
No, I'm not.
I've never heard that from you before. On the mound for the Mets today will be Jonathan Neese, his first outing against Major League competition this year. He faced the University of Michigan on Sunday.
Well, Neese had a big year last year. He got the most wins, 13 wins in his career. And this is his first start, as you say, against Major League competition. So it really is getting into gear. It's early in spring right now. Pitchers are stretching it out, taking it easy. They will have 5-6 starts before the season starts. So we got a longer spring training. He'll have an extra start. He's just getting in the groove.
And on the other side, a guy who's opted not to go to the World Baseball Classic, the best pitcher in baseball, perhaps Justin Verlander.
Well, he's had a great year last year. Not the kind of year he had 2 years ago when he was Cy Young, but still, he had a big year strikeouts-wise, win 17-8. He had a terrific season, and I'm glad he's pitching here. You get to watch the big guy pitch.
So it's the Mets and the Tigers. Weather is cool down in Port St. Lucie. Still, nice day to go out and grab some Rays. Back to Florida in a moment.
Look at you.
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets, by Bud Light, by Delta, and by Geico. Mets single game tickets for the 2013 season at Citi Field are on sale now. Get your tickets for Mets opening day, the Subway Series, and the rest of the All-Star season. Tickets start at $12 at Mets.com or by phone at 718-507-TIXX. Ticket operators are standing by now. Checking in around the majors, brought to you by Citi. Ryan Howard hit his first home run of the spring against a pretty quality arm in Craig Kimbrell. Matt Kemp making his return from shoulder surgery, making his spring debut. And Andres Torres, the former Met, back with the Giants and out with a strained oblique, the epidemic that is plaguing baseball. Mets are a month away from opening day. Getting ready here at Port St. Lucie. First pitch, Mets and Tigers coming right up. Let's check out the Tigers starting lineup, brought to you by Toyota. They brought two of their starters along today, in addition to the starting pitcher. Victor Martinez coming back from knee surgery. Prince Fielder, who again played all 162 last year in his first year with Detroit. And they are the highlights of the lineup that'll face Jonathan Neese this afternoon.
Well, Neese signed the big contract last year. See the numbers, 13-9. That's a career high in wins for John. Thought he had a fine season. Almost got 200 innings pitched. Good strikeouts, good walk to innings pitched ratio.
This will be his first outing against big league competition this spring. He faced the University of Michigan for a couple of innings on Sunday. John's looked a little out of sync early in camp, but you know, with a month to go until opening day, he's got plenty of time to right that ship.
Well, you know, when you're not fighting for a spot on the roster, and John certainly is not fighting for a spot. He's had a couple good years back to back now, looking to build. You know, you work slower. It's much more relaxed, less pressure. You can work on things, and then the last three starts, I think you start dealing.
Jeff Coburnis will be the first man to face him. Coburnis, a Rule 5 pick out of the Nationals organization. 3 for 14 this spring, and he takes the first pitch low and away for ball one. Coburnis, 24 years old. He's from Cal Berkeley. He's had a bunch of injury problems throughout his career. including a thumb injury and a rib injury last year that limited him to just 82 games. But he's got terrific speed, 42 stolen bases in the minor leagues in just 82 games last year. Playing second base today, that'll be Omar Infante during the regular season. 2 balls and a strike to Coburnis. There's Jim Leland, whose team last year was expected to be the powerhouse of the American League Central, but it took them a long time to rev it up. They were under 500 as late as July 5th last year. Line toward the left field line. Neuenhuis over, will play it on a hop. And Coburnis has a leadoff hit.
Well, the surprise, one of the big surprises last year was the White Sox. And they eked out the Sox. The Sox faded late, and we'll take a quick look at the Lexus Metropolitan defense. We will. There it is. Oh, the graphic's not up in my monitor, guys. We need to fix that. See, Neuenhuis has 16 starts in left last year. So I'm a little tardy. I was waiting for
that defense to appear in your monitor, and it just never showed up.
It never came up. Sometimes it happens, you know. We get cued by our producer, the defense coming, and then they get a little trouble down the truck, and we don't know. So I learned to look over the other monitors. I'm a quick learner.
Andy Dirks takes ball 1. You think they're messing with him?
No.
You sure?
It's spring training.
Andy Dirks did a terrific job in a platoon role last year. He had 322 and 314 at bats. They're trying to see whether he can hit lefties this year and be an everyday left fielder for the Tigers this year. And that's why he's getting the start against Nice today.
Well, he had 88 games last year, 314 at bats, and hit 322 with 8 home runs.
He's been sitting out early in camp with a strained side muscle, so this is just his second game. You see the shot from the berm in right field, and Coburnis picked off. Davis with the perfect throw, and so Nice, who does not get many bases stolen against him, pulls off the 1-3-6 for the first out of the game.
Well, he's just going to go with the break here, take a chance, and that's why you can steal off left-handers a lot easier than right-handers. So he's going right as soon as he breaks from the belt, and you're a dead duck, obviously, if he comes over. Nicely done by Jonathan.
And he gets ahead on Dirks 1-2 with Victor Martinez waiting on deck. Starting pitching could well be a strength for the Mets this season, but so much of it depends on the performance of Jonathan Nice. When you think about Santana coming back from missing this last couple of months of last year and getting off to a slow start this spring, Sean Markham also slowly being worked in this spring, coming back from some elbow problems last year. Dylan G, who missed the second half of the year because of the blood clot, as Dirks goes down swinging on the breaking ball. Buck scrambles after it and makes the toss in time for the second out. And then you've got Matt Harvey, who looks like the real thing, but has 10 starts in his major league career. Nice is the one guy you can look at and say he's been healthy, he's been effective year after year, and now you look for him to step to the next level.
Well, 13 wins, as we said, it's a career high for him, Gare. I thought he had a fine season, and you want him to step up. But you know what? In the course of a year, 162 games, no one gets hurt. They're all going to get 33 starts, so they're all important. I think Dylan G is critical coming back off the blood clot. I thought he pitched really well last year. It was just so unfortunate that he went down with that injury.
Here's Victor Martinez. Speaking of injuries, last year tore his ACL, missed the entire season. The Tigers went to the World Series last year. They didn't do a whole lot in the offseason. They brought in Torrey Hunter to be a veteran in right field. But the other key acquisition is just having Victor Martinez back as their DH every day.
Well, he's such a fine hitter and a switch hitter. And he doesn't have to, fortunately for him, because he's in the American League, he can DH. So they missed his bat. So think how powerful that team would have been with him playing pretty much every day.
Slapped down to first, and Ike Davis handles it. So after the leadoff hit, Nice, with the caught stealing and a strikeout, gets through the inning unscathed. Mets come to bat against Justin Verlander when we come back. Here's your Geico Mets starting lineup. Lucas Duda was a late scratch today due to have to go to the doctor, get a medical condition checked out. So Matt Dendecker was added to the lineup, batting ninth. You see Jordany Valdespin plugged into the leadoff spot today. He'll be the DH. David Wright playing his last game before heading off for the World Baseball Classic, and they all get to go up against the former MVP, Justin Verlander.
Well, you see the numbers right there, almost 240 innings. Look at the strikeouts. He's just solid.
Jordany Valdespin leads off, DHing today, and he bluffs the bunt and takes ball one. Verlander finished second in the Cy Young balloting last year behind David Price after winning both the Cy Young and the MVP in 2011. Considered by many to be the best pitcher in the game today.
Throws hard.
And he's got the good curveball. He's got the good changeup. He pitches without getting hurt. He's never been on the disabled list. Over the last 7 years, he's thrown 25,247 pitches, which is almost 1,000 more than any pitcher in baseball over that span.
This means he goes deep into ball games. He's got the whole pitch. When you talk about the great ones, they just can't get by with one pitch. They've got a superb breaking ball to go with it. And also, it's all about the gut check, too. They pitch better when men are on base. One of the things about Verlander, he hides the ball really well from a hitter's point of view. Never like a pitcher. Watch his front shoulder. He turns his back, hiding the ball. And the lift of the front shoulder, and then all of a sudden the ball's coming out of his hand. So it's so important. Well, I think with his stuff, if he didn't hide the ball, it wouldn't matter. But the fact that he does have that motion.
Valdespin gets tied up, and he went around, and Verlander has struck out the first man to face.
Well, there you go. That's probably right there is where you pick it up. So I always found, Gary, when I face pitchers that hit the ball well, Don Sutton comes to mind, Doyle Alexander, I'm dating myself, but I can't move the calendar up. When I couldn't pick them up, when I picked them up later than the average pitcher, that kind of, for me, just made me really hit line drives and go up the middle and not try to hit for any kind of power, because you're that split second extra, you don't see the ball out of the hand. That's a big that's a big difference right there, and a big negative for a hitter.
Well, even with a guy who doesn't throw as hard as Verlander, as Ruben Tejada takes a strike. I mean, the Mets had Chris Young the last 2 years. Guys throwing 83 miles an hour with his fastball, but they don't see it until the last moment, and it makes an enormous difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get a guy throwing 90 plus.
Tejada 2 for 6 in the spring, including a home run. In a home run off Steven Strasburg. We'll see what he can do against Verlander. 224 or more innings each of the last 4 years. He's thrown a couple of no-hitters. MVP 2 years ago. And last year, in a game where the Tigers needed a win more than at any other time the entire season, it was Verlander. Game 5 of the American League Division Series. Do-or-die game against Oakland. And he goes out there and throws a 4-hit shutout to get the Tigers into the American League Championship Series, where he and his mound mates dominated the Yankees and moved them into the World Series, only to get swept by the Giants. And Verlander struggled in his only start in that World Series.
Boy, they've been to 2 World Series. This is what, against the Cardinals, when they had that big layoff because they breezed through the American League playoffs.
That was Verlander's rookie year.
Yes, and then the Cardinals had to fight all the way through to get there. And then they just, I mean, Detroit in that series, what year was that, Gary?
06.
Oh, that was as bad a play defensively.
Well, the pitchers made how many errors for the Tigers in that series?
They were just so out of sync.
2-2 to Tejada with 1 out, and Ruben with a check swing grounder foul. Let's see if the defense comes up.
Well, I'm going to look at your monitor. Here's the Tigers defense presented to you by Ford. See, it's not up. So we got Prince Fielder at first. Of course, they say he's lost a little bit of weight. What a year he had last year coming over to the American League. It didn't affect him one bit. Hit .313 with 30 home runs and 108 RBI.
And Tejada pulls one down to Kelly at third.
And the long throw on a Hopkins. Fielder handles it with a plum for the second out.
Well, another thing about Fielder, too, is that Fielder is a pretty good first baseman. Now, with a guy his size, he's not going to have the good lateral movement, which means range. But he handles the glove over there pretty well. He's a pretty good player, let me tell you.
The one thing you sometimes get on him about is not charging hard enough on bunts.
Well, he's a big guy. I mean, McCovey didn't charge hard on bunts. And you want McCovey hitting fourth in your lineup?
Probably.
I think so.
Well, here's David Wright. David, who heads off for the World Baseball Classic tomorrow. They'll be convening in Phoenix with the U.S. team with Joe Torre at the helm. They've got quite a lineup assembled for the U.S. team for the WBC. The pitching, though, may be a concern because some of the best U.S. pitchers have declined, including the guy pitching for the Tigers right now. Verlander's not going. Matt Cain's not going. Clayton Kershaw's not going. So the top two starters for the U.S. team will be pretty good, R.A. Dickey and Gio Gonzalez. But after that, it gets a little dicier. Like guys like Ryan Vogelsong and Ross Detwiler. Strike three call, so David caught looking. And Verlander has his second strikeout in the opening inning. No score after one. Just a couple miles down I-95 from Port St. Lucie. It's the town of Tradition, Florida. There's the town hall. And Tradition, Florida's namesake, once again, is right here. Tradition Field, the once, future, and current Tradition Field. Prince Fielder takes ball one from John Neese as we start the second inning. Prince, just 28 years old, already has 260 Major League home runs, 30 of them last year, 108 RBIs, and for the third time in his career last year, played 162 games. Davis Denise for the first out. I mean, there just aren't many guys around these days who play 162.
And with his physique, you think he might wear down, but he's a strong guy. He wants to play every day. He plays hard.
Number 55, the catcher, Brian Pena.
Here's Brian Pena, who figures to be the backup to Alex Avila behind the plate for the Tigers this year. Spent the last 4 years as the backup in Kansas City after starting his career with the Braves. Pena now 31 years old, hit .236 last year for the Royals. And Neese gets the curveball over for a strike, 1-1.
So I gather Pena's got to be very happy that he got his get out of jail card here, going to a contending team.
You know what, though? There are a lot of people who think that the Royals are the sleeper team this year. I mean, they've been developing their young talent, and they went out and got James Shields to be an ace on their staff.
That was a nice move by them, by the way. And I would love to see Kansas City get it back together again. You go back to the Whitey Herzog days and when they won the National League West, excuse me.
The American League Central, which the Tigers won with just 88 wins last year, might be a little tougher this year. The White Sox should be good again. The Royals should be better. And the Indians certainly made their play in the offseason, signing guys like Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne. Tapper, and Neese comes off the mound. So Neese dominating the hitters early in this game. That's the second out. Looks a lot more comfortable on the mound than he did in some of his bullpen sessions earlier this spring or in that last outing against the University of Michigan. Here's Kevin Russo, former Yankee, playing center field today. Hit 284 in AAA last year. For the guys who aren't going to the World Baseball Classic, this spring training is longer than ever.
Yep. It's always long when it's a normal amount of games. They've added some games this year, obviously, because some players could be gone up to 3 weeks. You know, you're always ready to get out of here after 3 weeks. It's the pitchers that need more time because you've only got 5 starters, and you're also going to pitch some other guys that have a chance to make the ball club. So the starting pitchers really need the work to get themselves ready. Players, you can get yourself in shape in a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks, and then get it ready for the season.
Over the bag he just fouled, but I wonder for a guy who knows he has the ball club made, like say a Jonathan Neese, knowing that you have that extra time, can that work against you psychologically? That maybe you don't get yourself quite in the groove as fast, and maybe it sets you back a little bit?
I don't think so, Gary. I think you go out there every start with something to work on, and you don't want to have a bad spring. You want to have a good spring. I think it gives you a little more time, maybe if you want to work on your changeup or a secondary pitch earlier in spring. You got a couple more starts. You can monkey around a little bit early in spring.
Neese with 2 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. Verlander goes back to the mound when we come back. Justin Verlander set the Mets down 1-2-3 in the first with a couple of strikeouts. Ike Davis will lead off for New York in the second. Ike 1 for 7 on the spring with a home run. It'll be Davis, then Marlon Byrd and Kirk Neuenhuis for the Mets in the home second. second baseman Coburnis, who feared for his teeth. One hard out.
Well, that's what you call a humpback line drive. This has top spin. All right. Hard to see during the day here.
No sunglasses. Of course, it's not sunny. Here's Marlon Byrd trying to make an impression and a comeback to try and win a job here in camp with the Mets, and he takes a strike. After a lost season last year in which he was released twice and suspended for 50 games, Marlon went down to Mexico and played the full winter ball season. And I mean full season. He had 16 home runs down there. Fly ball out to center for Russo, and that's the second out. But Marlon told me he had never played winter ball before, and that the one thing he really loved about it is he learned some Spanish. He said after all these years of having just a little functional Spanish with his teammates in the clubhouse, that he actually, over 3 months down there in Mexico, got a grasp for the language, which is a very useful thing to have in this game.
It's good to have it in this world, present world, to be bilingual or to speak with multiple tongues. It's helpful.
Some of us just speak out of multiple sides of our mouth. Neuenhuis just 1 for 13 on the spring. Kirk got off to such a great start with the Mets last year, only to see the strikeouts pile up, and then the foot injury when he got sent down to the minor leagues curtailed his season. And with the Mets desperate for outfield play this spring, a falter on Neuenhuis's part, and you never know what might happen in that outfield mix.
There's a big fight out here. This is wide open.
Fielder gets in front of it, and another easy inning for Justin Verlander. He sets the Mets down on just 6 pitches. We played 2 quick ones in Port St. Lucie. Mets and Tigers, no score. Subscribe to MLB.TV Premium today and watch over 150 select spring training games live, plus every regular season game live or on demand on over 250 mobile and connected devices. Visit Mets.com for details. Avisail Garcia leads off for the Tigers against John Neeson III.
Nice pronunciation of that first name, Gary.
I'm trying my best. Garcia, the Miguel Cabrera lookalike, takes a strike. He came out of nowhere last September, had just 47 big league at bats before the postseason, and then was a mainstay in the postseason for the Tigers. in 261 and 12 postseason games. Jeurys Familia gets up in the Mets bullpen. But Garcia probably will begin this year in the minor leagues. And he gets jammed, rolls one down to right. Tough play for David, and he can't get rid of it. Garcia has an infield hit.
Well, David playing deep, as you can see. No shot. Good idea to eat it.
Now batting number 32, the third baseman.
So the Tigers have their second hit. It would have been very tempting for the Tigers to just run with Garcia in right field this year, but after falling short of a World Series championship last year, they decided to upgrade with the veteran Torrey Hunter in right field. Here's Don Kelly, who's playing third base today with Miguel Cabrera not here.
Well, it sets up more depth in their outfield. They can always looking at maybe to platoon Garcia with Dirks. Dirks a left-hand hitter. So you've only strengthened your club.
They also have another terrific young right-hand batting outfielder in camp, in Nick Castellanos. Double play ball for Turner. Tejada with the turn, and they double up Kelly, 2 men down. So the 4-6-3 double play erases Garcia.
Nice turn by Turner. Perfect feed. Tejada nicely done.
Now batting number 70, the shortstop.
Perfect double play ground ball.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Argenis Diaz will be the batter. Diaz playing shortstop. That's Johnny Peralta's position during the regular year. Diaz, 26-year-old Venezuelan, hit .253 in AAA last year for Toledo. Mentioned Miguel Cabrera not making the trip from Lakeland today. He's heading for the WBC to play for Venezuela, but what an incredible season Mr. Cabrera put together last year.
He became the 12th player in baseball history to win the Triple Crown.
First in 45 years. And Diaz has a base hit. So the third hit off John Neese, a 2-out single.
Well, he joins obviously an illustrious group. Nap Lajoie was the first to win in 1901. Ty Cobb in 1909. Roger Hornsby twice in 1922, 25. Jimmy Fox, Chuck Klein, Lou Gehrig, Joe Medwick. Last National Leaguer to win, Joe Medwick, back in 1937.
The thing is, if you go back to some of those really early winners like Napoleon Lajoie, Ty Cobb, I mean, they hit 12 home runs, 9 home runs.
Right.
It was a time when home runs just weren't all that important. So it's almost as though you put an asterisk next to those.
Well, they made it up with their batting average, didn't they? 422 Nap Lajoie in 01 with 14 home runs, 125 RBI. I'll take that. Ty Cobb, they got a picture of Ty Cobb here with his hands separated on the bat at least 4 or 5 inches. That's incredible. Probably one of the greatest hit. Oh, not probably. Arguably one of the greatest hitter in the game, ever in the game. He only hit 9 home runs that year. And then all of a sudden in 22, Hornsby came in, and Roger, probably the greatest hitting second baseman of all time.
Of course, the ball changed in 1920. They went to the lively ball, and after that, the home run numbers increased.
Hornsby 403 in 1925, 39 home runs, 143 RBI. That was in 25.
Robertus down looking. Neese looking very sharp in his 3 innings. That's his 3rd strikeout. Matching zeros with Verlander. Justin Verlander getting ready for what could be his final inning of work. He's thrown 2 perfect innings so far, thrown just 20 pitches to get there. John Buck will lead off for the Mets in the home third. Buck 1 for 5 so far this spring, rifled an opposite field home run day before yesterday here in Port St. Lucie. That's one thing about Buck. He's not going to hit for much of an average, but he has got the power to hit home runs, and we witnessed that firsthand a couple of years ago when he hit an opening day grand slam to beat Mike Pelfrey and the Mets down in Miami.
Yes, he did. He had a disappointing year at the bat. Hit under 200 last season for the Marlins. And we got the Marlins tomorrow, the new look Marlins.
Well, they've got Giancarlo Stanton. This is that home run Wednesday. Ball got in an awful hurry to the opposite field. By the way, that was Lance Lynn who made that threw that pitch for the Cardinals. I didn't recognize him.
He's lost a lot of weight.
He's lost a ton of weight.
Yeah.
Remember when we first saw him? It was a couple of years ago. We were doing the Pepsi Torch game, and he came in, and he was enormous then. Swing and a miss. Good off-speed pitch by Verlander to get even on Buck. 2-2.
Well, he's got that's a little splitter. Tough pitch to hit. It's not a strike. That's a pitch you got to make the pitcher get it up. Easier said than done. Easier when I'm sitting down up here with a microphone than it is with a bat in the batter's box.
Going to get that call. That's easy. Second strikeout for Verlander. 7 up and 7 down for the Tigers ace. Well, the last 2 years, he's won MVP. He's won a Cy Young. And last year finished second in the Cy Young balloting. Almost 500 innings the last 2 seasons, and that doesn't even account for the postseason.
I just think the game is kind of getting back to what it used to be, and I'm very pleased about that. It got ugly in the 90s, I tell you. And it's just getting back to pitching now. I just like the way it's shaping up.
Well, here's what's interesting with Verlander. You know, he's signed for this year and next year. He signed a 5-year deal, gets him to age 32. And now they're already talking about his next contract, and he was asked idly on a talk show last week whether he'd like to be the first $200 million pitcher, and he said sure. But think about that. Think about all the pitches he's thrown and the fact that he'll be 32 when this deal is over. How much money do you invest in a pitcher like that?
Well, if he keeps putting the numbers up, I mean, there's Bob Gibson, who was a great pitcher to his 40 with Warren Spahn. Why not Verlander? It's all about your health. If he doesn't hurt his arm, doesn't have any kind of major injuries, there's no reason why.
The only reason why is that long-term deals for pitchers historically have not turned out well. And if you're the Tigers and you already have major investments for the long term in guys like Cabrera and Fielder, can you afford to spend $200 million on a pitcher who's an arm injury away from making that money disappear? It's a hard question.
You got to make your cost-benefit analysis there.
Turner flies out to Garcia for the second out. And it's not as easy for clubs to get insurance on those contracts as it used to be either. So
that's why they have those pencil pushers in the front office.
But if you break a pencil, it only costs you a couple of cents. Two out and nobody on. Matt Dendecker, the batter. Dendecker, who had 17 home runs in the minors last year, fouls it off. By the way, I don't know if you remember this, but Verlander, when he was drafted out of Old Dominion in 2004, was the #2 overall pick in the draft. The #1 pick by the Padres that year, Matt Bush.
Usually it happens.
Does anybody know who Matt Bush is?
It happens.
By the way, the Mets picked 3rd that year. It took Philip Humber.
I remember that, yes.
Humber, who is going to be in the rotation, looks like, for the Astros this year after the White Sox let him go.
Good cut by Dendecker.
He has certainly shown us his defense already this spring. We've already seen him rob a home run. He came awfully close to catching that long drive by Beltran to the base of the left center field fence the other day. He can play the outfield. This was Monday, the one who went over the wall.
And that's a nice catch right there, no doubt.
And Verlander caps off a perfect outing with the comebacker. 9 up and 9 down for Justin Verlander. So he and John Neese each throw up 3 zeros. Jeurys Familia next man up. Well, they're already up. Harris. Complete recap of today's Mets-Tigers Grapefruit League matchup, plus up-to-the-minute news, opinion, and exclusive video straight from camp on Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, part of the SNY.TV blog network. Well, Neese and Verlander certainly was as good as they could have been. Jeurys Familia tries to hold serve as we go to the 4th.
Well, Familia last year at Buffalo went 9-9 in 28 starts, gave up more hits than innings pitched. There's Verlander, obviously very happy with that start. 9 up, 9 down. Walks are an issue with Familia. He's got a great arm, young pitcher, and usually it's all about honing the strike zone and honing his control. 137 innings pitched at Buffalo with 128 strikeouts.
We're talking to Terry Collins about Familia. He says it's all about the sinker, that he has a major league sinker, and now it's just a matter of commanding it effectively and getting outs with it. And, you know, frankly, a guy who was a starter throughout his minor league career has a big opportunity to pick up a role in the Mets' reshaped bullpen this spring.
Well, this is a great ball club to be on if you're a corner outfielder, or I'm sorry, an outfielder, period, and a bullpen pitcher. There's a lot of spots, a lot of competition.
And you've got a nice mix out there of candidates in veterans and young players. He gets ahead on Dirks 0-2. I mean, a guy like a Brandon Lyon, of LaTroy Hawkins. It was nice to see, by the way, on throwing a side session today. It's nice to see Pedro Feliciano back out there.
He's been given the green light.
Wearing a heart monitor, but going out there and doing his stuff. And Familia takes care of Dirks on 3 pitches, so that's quick work. Dirks strikes out for the 2nd time. Well, there are your right-handed bullpen candidates, including Gonzalez Herman, who not a lot of people have heard of, Jeremy Hefner and Colin McHugh, who both started games for the Mets last year. Jamie Burke, the side-arming right-hander. So those are some of the right-handed candidates to go with Bobby Parnell, who's a lockdown there, and Frank Francisco if he's healthy. Here's Victor Martinez up for the second time, turning around to bat left-handed. And this is the more interesting side for Victor because it was his left knee that he tore up last year. So there's a lot more pressure on that knee batting left-handed.
And up on that right side too, LaTroy Hawkins they brought in, and I think that he's the sleeper there. I think that was a pretty good pickup. He's 40 years old. He's in great shape.
Doesn't throw quite as hard as he used to, but LaTroy is certainly a credible candidate. Had a pretty good year last year. Lyon had a very good year last year. And there are some of the other right-handed candidates. Hansel Robles, I think we're going to see him today. Scott Atchison as well.
Atchison can be a sleeper.
Well, he had a terrific year for the Red Sox before he hurt his elbow last year.
I talked to him about his elbow. There's Terry Collins. He said, you know, who doesn't have a little fraying in the elbow? He goes, it feels fine, he said. But you always got to hold your breath. It's a long season. You know?
Well, the Red Sox, it appears, had recommended that he get Tommy John surgery, and he didn't want to do it. So he sat for a couple of months, came back in September, and they declined to re-sign him. But that could be the Mets' game.
Well, Tommy John would be then 1 year out. It's an automatic 1 year rehab. And he's what? And then he's 37, 38 coming back.
Right.
They really used him a lot in the first half of the season last year. He told me that he got a lot of work in.
And back-to-back strikeouts for Familia as he takes care of Victor Martinez for the second half.
Well, Familia is throwing strikes.
Number 28, the first
There's the
baseman,
little slider right there. Good down slider.
So just like that, 2 out and nobody on. Now Prince Fielder grounded out his first time up. Also back in camp today is Tim Burdack, who's not going to be able to pitch till much later in the season. He's coming back from shoulder capsule surgery. But he could be an important addition the second half of the year if he's able to come back and pitch.
A welcome addition.
The thing about the Mets, when they've got a good left-hander in their bullpen, they make a lot of use of him. We saw that with Feliciano. We saw it with Burdack. Now you've got Josh Edgin as the main lefty in the bullpen, and they will keep one other. Not going to leave the young left-hander alone to go out there and make 85 appearances this year. That's just not going to happen.
Well, outside of last year really was the first year the Mets had two lefties in the bullpen. The 2 years prior, they only had the one left-hander, Burdack, and that really hamstrung Terry Collins in late in ball games. When do I bring him in? You know, it could be a tough spot in the 7th or 8th inning, and then he's gone. You know, so it's always good to have. You got to at least have 2 left-handers in that bullpen.
Scott Rice is an interesting guy. 14 years in the minor leagues. He's been on the brink several times. He's looked very good so far this spring. Darren Gorski and Rob Carson. Carson, of course, was up with the Mets last year. Aaron Laffey, the veteran. Fielder with the shift on, takes one the other way, and Prince has a 2-out hit.
Well, that's something. This is something that I think Ike needs to learn. And I'm talking about Ike Davis, is to watch Fielder, who's a 30-plus home run guy. But I've seen enough of Fielder that when a base hit's needed, and certainly in this situation it wasn't, but late in the ball game where a base hit beats you, Fielder's not up there trying to hit a bomb. He can hit the line drive the opposite field. And I think Ike needs to learn to be late in the ball game where a base hit wins a game. I've had a couple of people say they don't like the term shorten up. Well, that's tough. That's the term I grew up with. It's shorten up a bit, and it doesn't mean you're a Judy hitter, but you're going up and concentrating on a line drive where the base hit is needed late in the ball game. In the middle of the game, you know, Ike is going to hit his home runs.
Turner gets in front of Pena's ground ball, and that'll do it for the Tigers at the top of the 4th. By the way, I don't think you have to apologize to anybody. You're well credentialed. Spring training 2013. Exactly a month until opening day. And the Mets going through their paces here. It's been a pitcher's afternoon so far. New pitcher for the Tigers, right-hander Luke Peconin.
Well, Peconin got a little bit of time in 12 games last year, 16 innings pitched. He started out in the minor leagues as a starter, and that was his first 4 years through the minors. And they put him into the bullpen around mid-season. And the next thing you know, he had a terrible year in 11 in the minors when they made the transition to the bully. And then it was a year later, he's in the big leagues. Go figure.
Jordani Valdespin leads off, struck out against Verlander his first time, and bunts at it and misses. Verlander 3 perfect innings, struck out 3, 35 pitches. So about as good a day as he could have hoped for in his second tune-up of the spring. Peconin preceded Matt Harvey at the University of North Carolina. Ball on the strike. 3rd round pick in 07 by the Tigers.
Well, Valdespin's off to a hot start in spring.
Here's a nice curveball by Peconin, 2-1. And Valdespin so far has been playing just at second base because Daniel Murphy's yet to play in a spring game. Murph was hitting off the tee today, but he's still a week away from getting in a game after that intercostal strain. But when Murph is ready to come back, the plan is to run Valdespin out there in the outfield again, which he did last year, which he did during winter ball, and that's yet another option for this team as they search for their outfield.
Well, we know that the Mets don't have a lot of speed.
Valdespin shoots one off the leg of the second baseman Cobernis, and Jordani's aboard.
And he continues to rip. He's got a nice swing. He's natural hitter. And the one advantage, and you've got to look at him and give him some serious thought, Valdespin, is he provides speed at the top of the lineup. Something the Mets really lack.
That'll be scored a base hit, the Mets' first of the day. And that introduces the question, if you're trying to figure out who your leadoff hitter should be, what should be the first consideration? Should it be a speed guy, or should it be a high on-base percentage guy?
No, I don't think it's Tejada, okay? I think Tejada's better served in the 2 position because he's a very patient hitter. He has a good eye at the plate, Gary. He goes the other way. He can hit and run. So that's what you want out of a 2-hitter. Valdespin, you want to see him improve on his walks,
which he did during winter ball this year. So
yes,
maybe that's a good trend for him.
But you don't want him Valdespin to lose his aggressiveness. Don't be taking pitches and all of a sudden his strength is that he sees the ball and he likes it. He's going to swing. You don't want to curtail that aggressiveness.
Well, let me ask you this. If Mike Baxter wins a role in right field and plays a good portion of the time, wouldn't he be a good leadoff guy with as much as he does walk and puts the ball in play?
I think Baxter would be a wonderful 7th hitter in the lineup, and I think that's one of the most underrated positions in the lineup, and it doesn't get enough respect. So my feeling is Baxter in the middle of the order, lower middle of the order.
Valdespin runs. Peñas throws a little high, and Valdespin has a stolen base, his first of the spring.
Well, a lot of wiggle in that catcher's arm there on his take back. Easily stolen by Valdespin. Let's see if Tejada here, if he interferes. No, he got it out of the way.
So there's your speed at the top of the order. Valdespin at second with nobody out.
Yeah, you got the corners in on the infield positions, 1st and 3rd, and you got a guy that goes the other way. I don't want him bunting. I want him swinging the bat.
And he does bunt, and that'll move the runner. Kelly makes the play to fielder, and Valdespin's at 3rd. So it's a sacrifice for Tejada. David Wright will be the batter. Whereas David may well be named captain before this season begins. Mets principal owner Fred Wilpon talked about David and his long contract earlier this spring.
I think that David is an all-star in all ways. I mean, he's a great person, and to me, he's our Jeter. And I think you need a core. I think you need a core, and you need. I don't want to put it all on his shoulders, but he gets it, David. And as far as I was concerned, he was not going anywhere.
And he skips one by the second baseman Coburnis to get the first run of the game home, and it's 1-0 New York.
Well, Coburnis went after that ball really kind of loosely there. He's trying to make a ball club here, and he's in. It's a tough chopper here. Got to come in and get that short hop.
They score that an error on Coburnis. I guess since he's playing in, it's got to be no RBI. But you know who counts stats in spring training anyway.
I'm just glad we got our hot coffee here. It's chilly. It's 64 degrees here, Garrett.
It's a little warmer than it was this morning. Got down to the 40s this morning. It's supposed to get down to the 30s Sunday morning. So, hey, I just want you to make sure you're dressed properly.
See, you got your jacket on. You're very sensitive.
Yeah, but
to
I don't have the fleece on like
I have the fleece vest.
I mean, how many people in Florida even own a fleece vest?
And folks at home, Gary is very sensitive to the cold. He's prepared when it's cold. He even has gloves that he can write with that keep his.
They're silk glove liners. Very important. But then again, I don't wear the fur collar the way you do.
Oh, hey, first road trip. Thomas Jefferson Coates out.
First road trip for the Mets this year after they opened at home against San Diego and Miami. They go to Philadelphia where it's likely to be cold. Then Minnesota, where it's likely to be winter, and Colorado, where it could be
75. It could be snowing.
It's a tough trip to pack for, I have to say.
Well,
we're already in the planning stages. We're still 6 weeks away.
Denver's the wild card in that trip.
Davis lined out his first time up, and Ike takes the fastball just off the plate, 3-1.
And if you look at the Mets' schedule this year, they've got a lot of long road trips. They've got a Arizona, LA, San Diego trip. They've got, before the All-Star break, they go to Milwaukee for 3, San Francisco for 4, and then Pittsburgh for 3 right before the break.
So they have to keep the team on the road before the break because they have to get the ballpark ready for the All-Star.
And I have all those games, Gary. It's you and I, brother. Think about it.
Joined at the hip.
Yes.
Don't get me in trouble. 3-2 to Davis, and he pulls one into right field. Davis will have a base hit. Wright goes first to third. So Wright not running on 3 and 2, but Davis gets him to third base anyway.
Well, Wright swung the bat good twice today. Hit a line drive his first at bat right at the second baseman. Here he goes, a bullet to right field.
It's easy to remember the horrific start that I got off to last year. But remember 2 years ago, the 5 weeks he played before he hurt his ankle, he was off to a rollicking beginning. And you know how badly he wants to get off to that kind of start again this year.
The infamous pop-up in Denver.
Now they stay out of his way. Here's Marlon Byrd, first and third and 1 out. Byrd flying to center his first time. Mets have a run home here in the 4th. And McConan throws it by him, 0-1. Marlon Byrd was an all-star as recently as 3 years ago with the Cubs, but he had his best years in Texas, a 3-year run where he was one of the best outfielders in baseball. But now he's 35 years old and trying to keep his baseball career alive.
See where the Mets yesterday played the Nationals, a night game, and Steven Strasburg had a nice little 3-inning stint.
Chasing 1-2. Well, it's an unfortunate fact of geography that the Mets wind up playing so many spring training games against 2 of their division rivals, the Marlins and the Nationals, because of the lack of teams here on the east coast of Florida.
And you got the Braves they play up in Orlando.
I mean, you see Strasburg enough during the regular season. They've already seen him twice now in spring training. Maybe that's a good thing. McConan ahead 1-2, and he comes inside. 2-2 to Bird with Neuenhuis on deck. Marlins will be here tomorrow. They've got Ricky Nolasco, Giancarlo Stanton, and after that it's a lot of unrecognizable faces after a major purge in the offseason. 3-2 now to Bird. Justin Verlander out doing his sprints after throwing 3 perfect innings today.
He's huffing and puffing. He's getting some good work in. I think he's done.
Ike not running. Bird with a base hit, and that'll bring in a run. Wright trots in to score. Marlon Bird with the 3rd hit of the inning for New York, and it's 2-0 Mets.
Oh, nice at bat by Marlon there. And he's having a very nice spring. Fastball wanted to get it up and in. Didn't get it in enough.
So the Mets with 2 runs home here in the 4th. A little different batting against Luke McConan than it was batting against Justin Verlander. Now Neuenhuis, who grounded out his first time up. Kirk got a base hit in his first at bat of the spring. He's gone 0 for 13 since then. Takes the breaking ball down. I asked Neuenhuis last week about the rehab from that plantar fascia tear that he had last summer, and he said it was very, very slow. He said part of that was on purpose because they knew he wasn't going to be able to come back and play the rest of the year. But he said it's a more difficult injury to rehab from than you'd think. It's that sheath at the bottom of your foot.
I'm glad I never had those things.
Played Mark McGwire the first few years of his career. Of course, R.A. Dickey had that 2 years ago and pitched through it. 1-2 to Neuenhuis.
Well, today they get the mold of your foot and they put the orthotics. I never played with orthotics, and so I had a bad back the last second half of my career. Really started getting worse with the Mets, and if I'd have had orthotics, I got orthotics after I retired.
By the way, we might have Tiger fans watching the game. That was Justin Verlander pulling at his hamstring, but I don't think it's a problem.
Oh,
Coburnus with the turn not in time, and so the inning continues as they get the force play on Bird at second. I'm just saying, you know, you get a Tiger fan who sees that image of Verlander maybe scratching the back of his leg, and he says, "Oh my goodness." No problem.
Now batting number 44, the catcher, John.
was that a 6-4 or 5-4?
That was 6-4 in their scorecard. So now Davis at third, Neuenhuis at first, and 2 out. And here's John Buck, who struck out looking against Verlander his first time up. There goes Neuenhuis, and no throw by Pena, so Neuenhuis has the second stolen base of the inning for the Mets.
Well, you got to hold runners on.
So now 2 in scoring position for Buck, who drove in 41 runs with the Marlins last year. .261 with runners in scoring position, just 192 overall. And now Pena wants to go out and talk to McConan. You know, we talked about the Tigers and the fact that they got off to such a slow start last year. Under 500 on the 4th of July. Didn't take over first place for good until just over a week to go. Now with his team loaded again and hoping that they can go that last step and win a World Series. There's some question as to whether this might be Jim Leyland's last year.
Well, he's a heck of a manager. Everywhere he's gone, he was great in developing all that talent in Pittsburgh back in the day with Bonds and Bonilla. Players manager, good guy.
Of course, he won a World Series in Florida. Been to the series twice now with the Tigers. Didn't go so well for him in Colorado, and in fact he got burned out there, and it looked like he was done managing.
Right, I remember that.
Buck takes a strike, and it's 2-2. Of course, Davey Johnson has announced this is going to be his last year managing.
Yeah, he's going to. I think Davey's going to go up to the front office.
So it could well be the last go round for both those guys, both Davey and Jim Leyland. Well, fouls off the breaking ball to stay alive.
Well, this game is so demanding, Gary, and we know it up here in the booth. I mean, we don't have to play. Neither does the manager, but they've got to be on point, throughout the entire game.
And then answer questions twice a day.
Yes, and then in the offseason now, the job continues for managers and coaches.
It's a lot more demanding than it used to be. Let's put it that way. Nobody knows that more than Davey, who's had to adapt with the times.
And you've got
those are some of the new managers in Major League Baseball this year, including first-timers like Mike Redmond and Walt Weiss.
John Gibbons getting a second chance.
Second chance in the same place. That's very unusual. Terry Francona back in it. John Farrell moving up after several years as a well-respected pitching coach in Boston. And Buck goes down swinging. So Buchanan avoids further trouble and strands 2 in scoring position. But the Mets cash a pair and lead 2-0. Fifth inning at Port St. Lucie. Mets now with a 2-0 lead. Gonzalez Herman will be the third Met pitcher of the afternoon. Pitched at 3 different levels last year in the Mets farm system as a starter and went 12-12. And the Met pitcher who started the game today is joining us from the dugout. That's Jonathan Neese. Jonathan, nice job today.
Thank you, guys.
Tell me about this spring for you. You took a big step forward last year, got to 190 innings. I know that pushing that number past 200 has got to be a goal this year. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, it was last year I was great to finish the season healthy, and I wanted to get to 200 innings, but that's a goal I can hopefully reach this year.
But in terms of your conditioning, in terms of the way you approach it, how do you make that jump?
I don't know, just staying healthy. I think being in better shape helps that along a lot better. But, it's one of those things where just got to take one game at a time and, like I said, stay healthy.
John, speaking in terms of staying in shape, what was your workout regimen in the offseason?
Didn't do too much running. Last year I had, kind of a sore knee. but I kind of stayed off running this off season and just stuck with weights.
Did you go on a bike or anything like that? Any kind of aerobic?
Actually, yeah. As a matter of fact, my wife actually got me one of those Tour de France bikes, and I was running on that all off season.
Now, you had that heart issue that you had to deal with last year, and there was some talk about you had to have a procedure done after the year, but you ended up not having that, right?
No, I actually went to the Cleveland Clinic this offseason, and you know, obviously they have great doctors there, and their suggestion was to stay away from it.
You're able to look around you in that clubhouse this spring and see a lot of very talented young arms. When you get around those young pitchers, now that you have a few years under your belt, what's some of the counsel that you can give them to help them along?
You know, just not trying to do too much. I think they have plenty of talent, obviously, as you can see, and just trusting their stuff. That's the big thing. I think not overdoing it, not doing too much, and you're just going out there and trusting what they got, which is really good.
John, we've seen you develop over the years here, and you came up originally with the fastball curve and the change. Then you developed the cutter, and then you started trying to get that on the right-handers, throwing that curveball on the outside corner off speed. Is there anything else you want to add to that, or you feel you have enough in your arsenal and just now it's about perfecting it?
Well, I'm never done learning. So if there's something that comes up that I need to develop to help get hitters out, then that's what I'm going to do. But for right now, I'm just trying to perfect what I got, and hopefully that's enough.
Garcia clears the right field wall, a 2-run homer that ties the game, showing off his opposite field power. John, I saw you actually mixing in a few more changeups today. Is that part of your goal this year, is to throw that changeup more?
Yeah, I really want to get good at it. I think the more I throw it in the bullpens, and obviously the more I throw it in the games, I think the better it'll get.
How do you feel, John? I really thought the curveball, you know, you got a really good curve. Do you like that, throwing that little off speed to the right-handers in the back door? Because you've got that cutter that keeps them honest inside, and your fastball. I thought it was a great weapon for you last year.
Right. And, you know, sometimes I try and slow it down a little bit, slow the curveball down, and, you know, like to work both sides of the plate. Obviously, I'm not that great at it yet, but it's something I'm going to continue to work on.
This spring training is longer than most because of the WBC. Is it more difficult to keep your edge for a long spring training, do you think, when you're still here? You've been here for 3 weeks already, and you still got a month to go until opening day.
I don't know. I guess yes and no. I think Dan does a great job of getting us guys ready. Obviously, there's a lot of guys at camp that need a lot to get innings in, and you know, I think Dan spreads it out pretty good.
Any difference in this spring now? This is your first spring, I think, where you know you've signed the contract. Congratulations,
thank you.
Well earned. You haven't really got a ball club to make, so you can kind of relax. Is there any differences before when you're trying to make a ball club and every start is so important? Every time you're trying to show up the skipper, is there any difference that you feel now that you know you're going to work this ball club?
Not really. I think ever since I had my first big league camp in 08, you know, every time I got on the mound, I tried to get outs, and that's exactly what I tried to do today. Obviously, I want to work on stuff. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to get out. This
organization is trying to work toward a run of success down the road, whether that starts this year or beyond. It's been, I know, difficult for you ever since you've been here. This team's not been able to get over the hump. What do you see around you that gives you encouragement?
Well, obviously the first step was David signing that deal. That's actually pretty outstanding that we got that done, and obviously the young guys that are coming up, especially Wheeler and Harvey. It's fun to watch those guys go out there and pitch, and it's good to see the future.
With the loss of R.A. Dickey, John, do you feel a little more extra burden because you moved up in the pecking order here now, and you're not the young rookie anymore? Do you feel any added responsibility?
Not really. I think all of us guys know that we need to get our innings in, and I think if we do that, we're going to have a lot of success. But I never really put too much pressure on myself, whether you know, no matter where I am, where I'm at in the rotation.
you know, just to go back to where we started, trying to build up your innings so you get it to a number that you're comfortable with. One of the ways you do that is to stay away from big innings, which I thought you really made tremendous progress with last year. Take me a little through the mindset of how you've developed as a pitcher to keep those innings from getting away from you.
Well, that is one thing that I had trouble with last year. I think I put a lot of crooked numbers up, you know, a lot of 3-4 run or more innings, and that's something I want to minimize this year. You know, when I get guys at second, third, or runners in scoring position with less than 1 out or less than 2 outs, just to take a step back, you know, get a little bit more focus and finish the inning off.
Well, John, terrific effort today, and only a month to go till opening day. Good luck to you.
All right, thanks, guys.
It's John Neese joining us from the dugout, and he is such an enormous piece of the puzzle for this team.
Well, no question. He's in that starting rotation, 13 games, and he's very young. Every year he's upped his win level, his win total, excuse me. Of course, 13 last year was a career high for him, and the Mets are certainly looking for him to move it up again.
Meanwhile, young Gonzalez Herman is struggling. He's given up 4 hits in the first 5 batters he's faced, including a 2-run homer to Abasil Garcia. Now he faces Andy Dirks with 2 men on. Mets have a left-hander, Aaron Laffey, up in the bullpen now. And Dirks lays off, and it's ball 1. Dirks struck out each of his first 2 at-bats. There's Laffey, one of the many candidates for the second left-handed spot in the bullpen. The Tigers now with 8 hits. Neese gave up 3 in his 3 scoreless innings. Familia gave up 1 in the 4th. And Herman with a changeup gets even on Dirks 1-1, and that's the pitch that the Mets rave about with Herman.
Well, that's the pitch du jour now. Everybody comes up, they teach it in the minor leagues, and they try to get him to throw it behind the count. And that's all well and good, but you got to have a fastball to establish a changeup.
Dirks hits one off the end of the bat, sinking fast, and a drop in front of Dendecker. Diaz stops at third, and now the Tigers have the bases loaded. 5 hits in the inning off Gonzalez Herman.
Got to face a lifetime 303 hitter.
Looks like we'll get a pinch hit.
Oh, we are.
Martinez.
That's right. Yep.
So Victor Martinez pulled after 2 at-bats, and Tyler Collins will be the pinch hitter in the DH spot. So an opportunity for Collins here with the bases loaded and 1 out. Infield in at the corners, and Collins takes a strike. Tyler Collins, just 22 years old, out of Howard College in Big Spring, Texas. You've been to Big Spring, Texas?
Well, Texas is awful big.
Yes, it is, and even the springs are big.
Not as big as Alaska.
No, but it's a lot less frozen. Diaz at third, Coburn is at second, and Dirks at first with 1 out. And Prince Fielder standing on deck. So this could be Herman's last batter. Probably don't want to get him too many pitches here in the 5th inning. Could be a double play. Tejada with the step and toss, and that'll do it for the inning. So Herman, with his back against the wall, gets the ground ball for the 6-6-3 double play. Garcia's home run ties at 2-2 halfway through. A little chilly out of the high seas today here in Florida. Still, if you wear your life vest and keep yourself nice and bundled up, it's a beautiful day on the water.
That's probably on the intercoastal right there.
There is the new closer for the Detroit Tigers, rookie Bruce Rondon.
He is going to be their closer. And gosh, talk about a tough spot. Minor league pitcher of the year last year with 29 saves. He was signed back in 2007 out of Venezuela. He was 190 pounds. And they're saying here that he's nearly 300 now.
That's a lot of extra weight.
What's he eating?
Good stuff, I hope. Justin Turner leads off in the home fifth and takes a strike at 98 miles an hour from Mr. Rondon. That's easy gas right there.
So you've really got to be high up on the. You've gotten everybody's attention if you're going to run him out there as your closer as a rookie.
Well, last year, of course, they had Jose Valverde, who was untouchable during the regular season, but melted down once the postseason began. And in a rather unusual move in mid-postseason, Jim Leyland cut the cord with Valverde, and he wound up going with Phil Koch and Octavio Dotel to close games as the postseason wound down. And at the end of the year, they declined to re-sign Valverde, and in the offseason made the decision to hand the job to Rondon.
Where did Valverde wind up?
He has not yet.
That's right. That's what I thought.
I mean, the Mets had a dalliance with him for a while, but decided that that's not the direction they wanted to go.
And Kyle Loesch is still out there.
Sometimes guys misjudge their value. And Turner takes one the other way, turning around a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. So Justin Turner with a leadoff hit. That's fourth hit of the day. Was awfully good this spring. Not only swinging the bat, he's good around the bag at second base. He's lost a little bit of weight, as much as he's gained in his beard and hair.
He's a red-headed Jeremiah Johnson. That's what he reminds me of.
I thought he was going for Jason Worth. I thought that was the goal. He's trimmed the beard back now. He had the big flowing thing going on earlier in the spring. Here's Matt Dendecker, and he takes a strike.
I walked by Parnell this morning in the clubhouse. He's got a full beard, looking pretty good.
This is the land of the beards and the long hair.
I never played with a beard. I wouldn't want sweating out there on a hot day. No, thank you.
Well, Turner's explanation was that he wanted to keep the hair and the beard long, at least through that first road trip to Minnesota and Colorado.
Ah.
So he's planning ahead.
Wise man.
Dendecker had a comebacker his first time up. Dendecker was not in the original lineup for the Mets today. Took the spot of Lucas Duda, who was a late scratch. There's an off-speed pitch for a strike, 1-2. Duda had to attend to a medical issue, which we are told is not of any significance, but it was enough to cost him a spot in the lineup today. It was nice to see Lucas pick up a base hit the other day after he had sat out for a couple of days trying to relearn his new hand position and get his foot down in time at the plate. Anytime you mess with one aspect of getting into the hitting position, you have to deal with the rest of it.
I don't like radical changes.
Well, the feeling on Dave Hudgens' part was just he had too much movement before trying to get into the hitting position. So he tried to calm him down a little.
Doesn't Rondon remind you of, Carlos Zambrano a little bit when he was overweight? He has that same body.
Throws a lot harder than Zambrano ever did.
He's a big man, 6'3".
And officially listed at 271 pounds. So he's pushing that 300 thing.
That's probably a little bit too heavy. Be wise to lose a little bit. You can get away with it when you're young, and sooner or later it catches up with you the older you get. And then you get into the bad habits, you know, of not being conditioned, and you're not 21 anymore.
Well, you look over at Prince Fielder at first base. He's lost some weight from last year at a point in his career where that becomes more of an issue. And Dendecker went around. So Rondon takes care of Dendecker for the first out of the inning, showing that he has more than just a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Breaking ball, couldn't check his swing. Slider down.
Now batting number 1, the designated hitter.
Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago when Prince Fielder was on that special diet to lose that weight? He wasn't hitting. And the fans told him to go back eating pizzas and cheeseburgers.
Can only take you so far. 1 out and 1 on. Now Valdespin, who hit a shot off the second baseman's leg for an infield hit, stole a base and scored a run in the 4th. Mets got their 2 in the 4th, one of them unearned. And the Tigers tied it here in the 5th on Garcia's 2-run homer. There's the changeup from Rondon for ball 1. And clearly he is working on his off-speed stuff today. Rondon just 22 years old. Straight up for Kelly at third base, and Valdespin retired 2 out.
Now batting number 11, the
So
shortstop.
2 out. Turner still at
Ruben
first, and here's
Tejada.
Ruben Tejada. Ruben is grounded out and sacrificed 0 for 1. David Wright is the only Mets major leaguer who's heading for the World Baseball Classic. Ruben was hoping to be going. He played for the team from Panama in the qualifying round, and somehow Panama got knocked out by Brazil and did not make it to the World Baseball Classic proper. And so no Panama, so Tejada's still here. Same was true of Josh Satin, who played for the Israeli team and got knocked out. There's some of the players who will be on the roster for Team USA. They'll have Joe Mauer as their principal catcher. The infield looks very solid. Teixeira, Phillips, Rollins, and Wright. The outfield with Ryan Braun, Adam Jones, Giancarlo Stanton. That's an awfully good lineup that Joe Torre can put together. The question's going to come with pitching depth, with Ari Dickey and Gio Gonzalez at the head of the rotation, Craig Kimbrell at the end, but a lot of question marks in between. As we said, no Verlander, no Kane, no Kershaw.
That's not top of the list. Heath Bell.
And Chris Perez was scratched for the Indians today. That might be an injury situation, so he might have to leave that team as well. There goes Turner. Tejada swings and misses, and a horrible throw by Pena. Whoa! And the Mets have their 3rd stolen base of the day.
Oh, he knew it right away. He saw the expression. That one got away.
It's back up by Coburnis to keep Turner from thinking about going to 3rd. Bruce Rondon trying to finish off the inning. .66 strikeouts in 53 innings in the minor leagues last year. Ahead on Tejada, 1-2. Tough man to strike out. Pena can't block it, and Turner winds up at 3rd. It'll be a wild pitch charge to Rondon.
Slider. She hasn't been able to throw for a strike today, so. There was a time when all that jewelry on the necks of pitchers, they couldn't wear anything. They were always an ump. And as a player, you didn't have to even tell the umpires. They were told to enforce it. All that jewelry off. But that's not enforced anymore.
Unless it's Dickey and his bracelet. Remember that last year?
Yes, I do. They made him take it off.
They did. much to his dismay.
I don't think it bothered him that much.
He was not happy. But
you know what?
It didn't affect his pitching. What a magical season.
Oh, my goodness. It'll be interesting to see what he does up there in Toronto. That ball flies out of Toronto.
3-2 to Tejada. Up and in as Rendon overthrew that fastball. Now the Mets have runners at the corners for David Wright. Well, Toronto's making their run for it. No question between signing, making the trade for Dickey, making the big trade with Miami to pick up Reyes and Burley and Josh Johnson. They are fortifying themselves, thinking this might be the year that the American League East is vulnerable.
Well, there's more than a few teams that are going for it. And the Dodgers are certainly one. California, certainly another. I mean, you can put the Braves in that category. They made a lot of moves post Chipper Jones year, first year without Chipper. They felt that they were the bat. They with the loss of Chipper, they went out and got 2 out there, the Upton brothers.
BJ signing as a free agent. Justin coming in trade from Arizona. The Mets were in the Justin Upton sweepstakes for a while. 1-0 to Wright. He grew up with the Upton brothers. And he takes up an in 2-0. And there are their numbers from last year. Not overwhelming by any means on either part. The surprising one has been Justin, who's been battling a wrist injury, but nonetheless his numbers have really gone down the last 2 years after a spectacular start to his career.
Well, you remember they moved him in the batting order to the 3rd spot, I believe, and he started hitting a lot better the second half of the season.
Fans, don't forget spring training action continues here at Tradition Field tomorrow afternoon.
He's never really hit for the average, but the 28 home runs, that's a lot of home runs. And they both strike out a lot.
Wayne Belo is up in the bullpen for the Tigers. Don't having trouble throwing strikes. They will definitely limit his pitches here. He's up to 20 now. I can't imagine they'll let him go past 25.
It's got to be a concern for Jim Whelan, too. That's your closer.
2-0 to Wright. And he drives one into left field, and the Mets regain the lead. Well, David Wright looks primed for international play. He drives in Turner, and it's 3-2 New York.
Well, there's your classic example of pitcher in trouble, can't get his breaking ball over. He's going to try to throw a fastball, first pitch strike. Boy, you're on it. Just don't let him get ahead with a fastball, particularly in RBI situations.
Now batting number 29, the first baseman.
So the Mets with a 2-out RBI hit, which when they were rolling the first half of last year was their signature. Now Ike Davis bats with 2 out and 2 on. Ike has hit the ball hard twice, lined out to second and single to right. And he grounds this one for Coburn. It's easier play this time, and that'll do it for the inning. But the Mets regain the lead on David Wright's RBI single. After 5, it's 3-2 New York. cloudy day, temperature in the mid-60s at Tradition Field today. Jonas Schwartz and Joe Beningo will have a recap of today's Mets-Tigers matchup, plus exclusive Mets player and coach interviews straight from Port St. Lucie on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, weekdays at 5, only on SNY. 27-year-old Aaron Laffey spent last year with Toronto, began his career with Cleveland, pitched for the Mariners, pitched for the Yankees, looking to make the Mets staff as a left-handed specialist. And he'll take over here in the 6th inning to face a big left-hand hitter in Prince Fielder. Fielder 1 for 2, took a single to left field with the Mets employing the big shift his first time up, and he takes a strike. Laffey last year made 16 starts for Toronto, only 6 appearances out of the bullpen. As you look at that shift.
Well, we saw that a lot last year with the Mets defensively, with these extreme shifts. You know, with a look at that. Hit him with an ain't. That's what they say.
Fielder has his second hit of the game.
I said ain't on purpose.
I know that your grammar is impeccable.
Now batting number 55, the catcher.
Nice hitting.
So Fielder comes out after his second hit. Matt Tuiasosopo, who used to be the Mets farm system, will be the pinch runner. So the tying run at first with nobody out. Now Brian Pena, switch hitting catcher, goes back to right-handed against Laffey. He's 0 for 2 today. Tigers now have 10 hits in the game. And Laffey finds the inside corner with a cutter. That's a new wrinkle in his game. Laffey just started throwing that cutter last year with the Blue Jays and had a little success with it. Could be 2. Tejada to Turner. And the Mets turn their second double play in the last 2 innings and their third of the game.
This one's tailor-made. Not speaking golf terminology here.
That's Taylor with an I instead of a Y.
Now batting number 67, the center fielder Kevin Russo.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Kevin Russo, who rifled a double down the left field line against Gonzalez Herman in the last inning and then scored in front of Avisail Garcia's home run.
Speaking of golf, we've got that big Honda tournament down here in PGA in Palm Beach Lakes, but 15 minutes from my house.
Will you be
No,
attendant?
I will not attend.
Is it a big deal?
It's a big deal. It's a big tournament. It's Tiger shot a 70 yesterday, had a bad back 9. He's 6 off the pace. It's a big tournament. It's an important tournament. So it is a big deal.
We'll have to pay attention.
Well, it's just interesting to watch Tiger this year to see. You know, he's already won a tournament this year and won in San Diego, and I think he's swinging better. And very interesting to see what happens this year with his golf game.
He's already had his presidential round.
That's true.
Laffey behind now 3-0 on Russo with Garcia on deck. And there's a fastball strike. And at this point in his career, that's about where Laffey's going to top out at 87 miles an hour. A little harder when he first came up with the Indians. He was in the big leagues at age 22. '65 starts in his career, 83 relief outings, so he's been used significantly in both roles.
Nice hitting.
So Russo takes one the other way, and the Tigers keep on racking up the base hits. That's 11 of them. But they've only scored twice. They've had a caught stealing and 3 double plays. And now Garcia, who accounted for their 2 runs with an opposite field home run in the 5th, while we were talking to John Neese.
Now batting number 34, the right fielder Avisail Garcia.
That was a nice interview with John. Find out where he's at in this stage of his career and what he's working on in the spring.
You know, it's great to see a guy come to the big leagues, and you watch his maturity and his progression both as a player and as a person as the years go along. You know, John has really started to come out of his shell a little bit and take on a more significant role on the field for this team, but off the field as well.
Well, I can tell you from my personal experience, I was nervous with the media when I came up. I was in the big leagues when I was 20. And, you know, it was St. Louis, and the local sportscasters would do the interviews on the sidelines. And I was nervous. It took me a while to get comfortable. You know, and I'm a stutterer, too. I remember one interview with Tim Van Gelder. I forget what network he was with. And I stuttered my way through that one. I felt like an idiot after I was done. I went home, locked myself in my apartment for 2 days.
Well, let me ask you this. As a young player coming up, dealing with the media, do you think it was better for you to start in a smaller market like St. Louis, where maybe the questions weren't quite as difficult, instead of coming to New York first?
I don't know if the questions are quite as difficult. They're asking you, they're sportcasters, and they know their business. They're going to ask you questions that are pertinent to where you're at, trying to make a ball club. There's more spotlight in New York. It's the #1 media capital in the country.
Bird reels in this fly ball from Garcia to end the inning, so Laffey works around a couple of hits. We go to the bottom of the 6th, 3-2 New York. David Wright heading off for Phoenix for the WBC after today and making his presence felt. Johan Santana readying himself for his first start of the spring, probably in the next 10 days or so. As the Mets work their way through spring training, a month from opening day, Marlon Byrd leads off the home 6th against the new Detroit pitcher, lefty Dwayne Bilo.
Well, Bilo last year with Detroit, you see his numbers there, 27 games.
Just 8 walks in 46 innings, always a nice number.
Not a lot of strikeouts. There's a leadoff double right there.
So Byrd has his second hit of the day as Castellanos chases it down in the corner. So Byrd with an RBI single and now a pull double down the left field line.
First ball, fastball hitting. Quickest way to get rid of a pitcher, not take those pitches to get his pitch count up. Get first pitch fastball to your liking. Take a rip at it, knock him out. Send him to the showers.
Now batting number 9, the left fielder.
So the Mets have their 6th hit of the afternoon, and now Kirk Neuenhuis, who's 0 for 2 ground balls. He's also stolen a base. Velo fires high for ball 1. Justin Verlander started for the Tigers, went 3 perfect innings and struck out 3. Mets got a couple of runs against Luke McConan in the 4th, and 1 against Bruce Rondon in the 5th. And now trying to fashion something against Velo in the 6th. Oh, nice shoulder as his helmet spun off, but I think you're right. I think he got more shoulder than helmet.
He got away.
Ray Ramirez and Terry Collins out to make sure he's all right.
Shoulder. Close.
It's a football player.
Now batting number 44, the catcher.
Terry Collins, who has had a few scares already this spring. Is that Danny Murphy on the sidelines? Santana's been had to be pushed back. And Zach Wheeler scratched from the start, although that doesn't appear to be particularly serious. Medical issue with Feliciano. It's early in camp, but you worry about all those things as John Buck takes ball 1.
Well, that's the one thing you can't predict. That's injuries.
Well, it's been such a recurring theme for this franchise over the last 4 years. The Mets are due 1 year of really good health. Velo, the 4th Detroit pitcher of the day, pitching to Buck, who has struck out in both his at-bats. Ball and a strike. Ryan Villarreal, the next man up in the Detroit bullpen. Nobody throwing for New York, so it looks like Laffey may get another inning. Of course, in spring training, you're going to be more cautious with any minor injury situation than you would in the regular season. I think Wheeler was a case in point. In a regular season game, in an important game, he probably would have pitched the other day.
Well, also too, obliques are so lingering and so slow healing, and you got more time. And Wheeler would have had to have just a show-stopping spring to make this ball club due to union rules as far as arbitration. This is a fly ball to get the runners auto advance.
Bird tags, goes to third. Neuenhuis trying for second, and he makes it safely.
So the point I'm trying to make, Gary, is that the minor league season starts later than the major league season, so there's plenty of time to make sure. Sure, you want to give Wheeler a look, but it's going to be very conservative as far as bringing him back. And I'm sure they'll pitch before it's done.
Now runners for second and third for Justin Turner, who had a base hit and scored a run in the 5th.
And Detroit is conceding a run here, only in at the corners. There you go. Back at short and second.
Of course, it being spring training, players will miss games for any number of reasons. You see Texas shortstop Elvis Andrus missed a day yesterday because of soreness in the area where he got a new tattoo.
Goodness. What a shame. Where was he?
Up the middle, a base hit for Turner, and that should play 2. Bird with Neuenhuis right behind them. Both come in to score. So Justin Turner, RBI specialist, drives in a pair, and the Mets go up 5-2. From the day he got to the big leagues, he has relished these RBI situations. Come out for a pinch runner.
Pinch running at first base, number 61, Wilmer Flores. Now batting, number 68, the center fielder, Matt Jetjecker.
Wilmer Flores running for Turner at first base. And he's picked off. Welcome to the game, Wilmer. 1-6-3, and that's the second out of the inning. Wilmer's in, Wilmer's out.
Second pickoff in this game.
I didn't even have his name written down on the scorecard.
I was writing it down. I missed. I'm glad you were watching.
Wilmer will go in and play second base, so he'll have a chance to add to his line in a positive way as Matt Dendecker takes up an in, and it's 1-0. Dendecker's in a comebacker and struck out. But how about that? How about missing a game because you have soreness in the area where you got a new tattoo? That's a new one.
I'm afraid to ask where that area is.
I think it was a rather large tattoo on his arm or on his back. And I think it was, the nice part was it was a family-oriented tattoo. He was honoring his father, a picture of his dad.
That's permanent.
Nonetheless, you know, you wouldn't want to do that when you're working. You might want to do that in the off-season.
My father, I remember when I was a kid, my dad didn't have tattoos. And a lot of the sailors and soldiers that went away in World War II, they got tattoos. I remember my dad explaining it to me and saying, you don't want to ever get a tattoo, son. You know, you're stuck with it. Because a lot of the guys did it because they were going away to World War II and they weren't sure they were going to make it home. So they put their wives' names on their shoulder and stuff like that. It's a whole different program here.
Well, it's painful to get a tattoo. It's a lot more painful to get rid of it.
No thanks.
Mets tack on 2 on Turner's hit and lead 5-2 after 6. Changes for the Mets as we go to the 7th. Anthony Recker takes over behind the plate. Zach Lutz playing first base. Wilmer Flores at second. Brandon Hicks is the new shortstop, and Brian Bixler is at third. Andrew Brown takes over in right field. Don Kelly takes a strike from Aaron Laffey, and we are joined from the Mets dugout by Justin Turner. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing, guys?
You know, it doesn't seem to matter if it's regular season or spring training. You get runners in scoring position, your eyes light up. What is that about you?
I think everyone's eyes light up when they get in that situation. So, you know, I just really try to hone in and look for something up in the zone and try to put a good swing on it. And like I said earlier, you know, I've been fortunate enough that a lot of balls have been finding some holes for me. So
this would appear to be a new kind of a team. You've got a lot of new faces in that clubhouse. You've been there for a couple of years now. What's the difference now with the group that you've got around you in that clubhouse?
The big thing everyone's talking about this year is, all the young guys we got coming in, Darno and Wheeler and Harv. But when you look, we got a lot of veteran guys as well who I think are going to have a big presence in the clubhouse and really step up in a leadership role and get this team going the right way and try to sustain it through the entire season instead of running out of gas, after the All-Star break.
Justin, I've been some talk about you getting some outfield work as another position for you to play. What have you been doing this spring? Are you getting some fly balls? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I got down here about a week early before we were supposed to report and did some work with Goody, and was out there again yesterday, early before he headed up on the road, and took some fly balls, some ground balls, just getting reads off the bat, and trying to get comfortable. Hopefully, at some point, I'll be able to get out there in the game and see how it really goes. But you can take a million fly balls and ground balls off a fungo, but you got to be able to do it in the game. So we'll see how that goes.
Is it something that you're working on every day?
No, a couple times a week. I talked to Terry, and he wants me to, stay on the infield and do all my work in there, and then pull Goody either early or after, and have him take me out there and do whatever he feels. I guess whatever drills outfielders do. So I don't know what all those are yet. I've only got to do a couple of them.
Has there ever been a time, going back high school, whenever, that you've even fooled around in the outfield?
Yeah, my rookie ball year, when I was with the Reds in Billings, Montana, our center fielder and left fielder collided, and instead of bringing guys up from the Gulf Coast League, they threw me out there. I was platooning at the time, playing every other day at second base with another kid, and Rick Burleson was our coach, and I went up and told him, I said, hey, throw me out there. I want to get in there every day. So I ended up playing, 10, 11 games out there. It wasn't much, but do have a little bit of experience.
Tell me what last year was like for you. After 2 years ago, you got over 400 at-bats. You were playing just about every day. To get so much less playing time last year and have to wait your turn, what was that like for you?
If you look around our infield, there weren't a lot of places for me to get at-bats, But it was a little different. It was adjustment. It's definitely, you have a different approach at the plate when you're only getting one at-bat a night as opposed to going in there knowing you're going to get 3 or 4. And, it's a lot more aggressive mentality up there. The first fastball you see, you want to jump on it, whereas when you're starting every day and you're getting 3 or 4 at-bats, you try to work a count, see some pitches. Sandy's big on base percentage, and Hudge preaches it to us every day, pounds it into us. So I think the biggest thing is the adjustment from pinch hitting, and then getting those consistent at-bats every day. It's definitely a different approach at the plate.
Now, I was hoping to get you on the air with a full hair and beard thing going on, but it looks like you've trimmed down significantly over the last few days. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, we had a dinner with Jeff the other night, and I decided to go into the barber shop and clean it up just a little bit. When you're eating with the boss, you can't really go in there looking like a bum. So I just trimmed it up a little bit. It's still there. It's not going anywhere, and a couple of weeks it'll probably be back nice and thick and long again.
Yeah, I liked your initial idea about waiting till we got through Minnesota and Colorado.
Yeah, that's the plan. That first road trip's going to be pretty cold, I'm assuming. So we're going to try to keep that face as covered as possible.
This is a particularly long spring training, Justin. You still have a month to go before opening day, and you probably feel like you've been here forever already. Any adjustments that you guys are making to account for the extra long time that you're here?
This is my first spring training where I've got to come into it and kind of, have a plan, have almost a schedule. The last 4 or 5 that I've been to, I was going every day, playing every day. Last year, I don't know how many at-bats in spring training, whether we're starting games or coming in. And so it's a little bit easier this year for me because, Terry's kind of giving me a schedule, letting me know what's going on. I can plan my workouts out a little bit better instead of going winging it on the fly, trying to get it in, coming back off the road or something. So I think that helps, but it is a really long spring, and you just try to minimize your work and make sure you're doing quality stuff and not quantity, and make sure you're getting in the weight room, getting your leg stuff out of the way so you have your legs underneath you, and by the time April 1st comes, you're not out of gas.
Well, Justin, thanks so much for the time, and good luck growing all that hair back.
Thanks, guys.
Justin Turner joining us from the Mets dugout. Another good day today with a couple of hits, 2 RBIs. You saw that number there. 2 years in the major leagues with the Mets, 333 with runners in scoring position, and that's how you keep a job as a part-timer in this game. You make yourself reliable in key spots. Nick Castellanos, the #1 prospect for the Tigers, getting his first at bat in this game. He's 21 years old. Might have an outside shot of making this team, although they'd like him to play somewhere every day. You might think about platooning him in left field with Dirks if it works out that way. But he has been very impressive with the Tigers this spring.
He's got a big follow through like Piazza. He holds onto the bat with both hands. Morty kind of wraps it around his back.
And a balk is called against Laffey. That'll send Jeff Coburnis down to second base.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yep. He started.
DJ Rayburn, the home plate umpire. So the Tigers have a runner in scoring position with 2 out.
It's always funny when pitchers balk like that and they try to hide it.
It's like when you stumble on the sidewalk and you try and pretend that nothing happened.
Right.
Laffey trying to work his way through his second inning. And Castellanos is on with a 2-out walk. That is the first walk given up by Met pitching today, giving up a dozen hits. The first free pass now Tyler Collins, who took over a DH for Victor Martinez and grounded into a double play, is only time up. Scott Atchison, the veteran right-hander, up in the Mets bullpen. So here's Collins with 2 out and 2 on. Laffey throws a fastball for a strike. That's got 3 scoreless innings out of John Neese today. Jerry's Familia pitched a scoreless 4th. Gonzalez Herman gave up 2 runs and 5 hits in his inning. And Laffey now working his second inning in relief. One and 2 to Collins. Behind Wecker, who has no idea where the ball is, and that'll load up the bases. So Collins strikes out, but reaches first base as the ball skips by Anthony Wecker.
No, that's not good fundies right there, backhand.
For Wecker, who is battling for a job, trying to be the opening day backup catcher. That one keeps the inning alive, and the Mets will make a pitching change, and they'll bring in Scott Atchison to try and get the right-hand hitter out with the bases loaded. 5-2 New York in the 7th. Tying runs on base for Detroit. We'll be right back. Scott Atchison on to pitch to Matt Tuiasosopo, and he gets strike one.
Well, had a nice year last year with the Red Sox. You can see those numbers. He told me that they really worked him hard. Their starting pitching was so mediocre last year at Boston. They really had to work deep into that bullpen.
Off the end of the bat to center field, and Dendecker's right there to squeeze it. And the Tigers strand 3 in the top of the 7th. Stretch time with the Mets up 5-2. Changes for the Tigers. Brad Davis takes over behind the plate. Hernan Perez is the second baseman. Eugenio Suarez is the shortstop. And the new pitcher for the Tigers is right-hander Brian Villarreal.
They acquired Villarreal from Milwaukee a couple years ago. Boy, he had a nice season for him last year in 50 games. Not a lot of hits given up.
Colin Cowgill will bat for Jordani Valdespin in the DH spot as we lead off in the bottom of the 7th. Cowgill has really looked good so far this spring as he tries to win at least a platoon job and perhaps an everyday job in center field. Former Diamondback, former Oakland Athletic. He's got some power, he's got some speed. Contact has been his issue, but he's made contact so far this spring. He is a 5'9" bundle of energy.
Well, he's a hard-nosed player. He hustles.
And he hits this one in the air to deep left field. Back goes Castellanos onto the warning track near the wall, and it's off the fence. Castellanos, a converted third baseman, didn't track the ball well, but Cowgill hits it high off the fence and winds up at second base with a double.
Well, he continues to impress, having a good spring here, a chance to win a starting position in this ball club.
So Cowgill continues to rake, and the Mets have a leadoff double in ball 7. Their 8th hit of the day. And now Brandon Hicks up for the first time, took over for Ruben Tejada at shortstop. Lifts one to right field. That'll move the runner to third as Cowgill tags. Garcia reels it in, and the Mets have a runner at third with one out. Weekdays at 6, Chris Carlin and Adam Shine bring you live reports on the Mets and Yankees straight from camp, plus up-to-the-minute news and all the latest in New York sports on Loudmouths, weeknights at 6 on SNY. Now it's Brian Bixler. And the infield will come in. Bixler with as good speed as anybody the Mets have in camp. See if the squeeze might be in order. Terry's not a big squeeze guy. But if you're ever going to try it, spring training might be a good place for it.
I'd rather let the guys swing. Although Bixler would be a guy, if he makes the ball club, it would be a guy potentially that would have to squeeze off the bench, pinch hitting.
Taps one toward third. Tough play for Kelly, and he has no play, and a run comes home. There's no way he was going to throw out Bixler anyway. So Brian Bixler, with a slow tapper, gets an infield hit to drive in a run, and it's 6-2 New York.
Nice read by Cowgill. Watch him top of your left of your screen. Good break on the ball off the bat. Infield in, one out. I don't know if it was a contact play or not. I'm sure it probably was contact, but he got a good jump there.
So Bixler gets the run in. Now Zach Lutz will bat. Lutz has spent some time with the Mets last summer. He's been playing a lot of first base in camp this spring. One thing the Mets don't really have is a natural backup for Ike Davis at first base. I guess Justin Turner right now would be your primary backup at that spot. Brandon Hicks probably is going to make the ball club as a backup infielder. Could play there as well. But the Mets lack that big right-handed bat off the bench that they had last year in Scott Hairston. And Lutz, perhaps, at some point this year, could be that guy. Certainly has been a power-hitting threat in the minor leagues. The problem with Zach has been staying healthy. And now he's got a 3-0 advantage on Villarreal. That's Andrew Brown waiting on deck. Lutz takes a strike. Lutz, who played his college ball for his dad at Alvernia College in Pennsylvania, Division III school. And amazingly enough, the Mets have 2 players from Alvernia College in camp this spring. Lutz and Anthony Recker, who was Lutz's teammate at Alvernia. Draws a walk. 2 men on. I mean, what are the odds? The Yogi Lutz pipeline. So here's Andrew Brown, another outfield hopeful for the Mets. Played last year for Colorado.
Now batting number 77, the right fielder, Andrew Brown.
This is where having the extra long spring training really helps a manager when he's got so many moving parts in a wide open race for positions. I mean, you've got really close to a dozen guys fighting for outfield jobs with this ball club, whether starters or platooners or bench players. And normally in the course of a spring training, it's awfully hard to get enough bats from everybody to really make any kind of reasoned judgment. This year, with more games, it might be a little more definitive. Believe me, he's watching every move, every moment.
Every time I see the number 77, I think of Leo Namalini, offensive defensive lineman for the 49ers when I was a young kid.
Now that's pretty obscure.
That's when they played both sides of the field, obviously. I'm going back to the late 50s with this one. The 49ers didn't show up in the first half again. Oh, just barely got out of Dodge in Atlanta in the championship game.
They were better after the lights were off.
That's true. But speaking of tattoos, how about that young quarterback for the 49ers? Boy, is he something else.
Talk about coming out of nowhere.
Boy, well, I tell you what, he was drafted by the head coach, former quarterback, of course, and I think he knew what he had. And, of course, the concussion, who they just traded the Alex Smith to Kansas City for a bunch of draft picks.
Not the first time that a 49ers quarterback has wound up in Kansas City. To shortstop. And Suarez makes the play to first to get Andrew Brown for the second out if the runners move up.
Your attention, please. Defensive changes for
Joe Montana assisted Kansas City.
Yes, he did.
And shortstop number 77, Eugenio Suarez.
Not sure that Alex Smith has quite the credentials that Montana took. Nonetheless, it's the same route. So here's Neuenhuis with 2 in scoring position. Kirk is 0 for 2. He was hit by a pitch, grazed his front shoulder, his right shoulder, and then he scored a run in the 6th. Mets up 6-2 in the 7th with a chance for more with 2 out. Brian Villarreal has already given up a run here in the 7th. And Neuenhuis fouls it back, 94 miles an hour. See, now when I think of 77, I think of when Phil Esposito came from the Bruins to the Rangers. And the Rangers weren't going to give him 7 because that was Rod Gilbert's number.
Oh, that's right.
So they doubled it up and gave him 77 at a time when hockey players just didn't wear a number like that. Perez plays the quick hop and throws out Neuenhuis, and that ends the inning. Mets tack on a run on Bixler's infield hit. 6-2 New York after 7. Eighth inning, Brad Davis leads off against Scott Atchison and takes a strike. Davis up for the first time. Took over for Brian Pena behind the plate last inning. Atchison came in to get the final out with the bases loaded in the 7th. And a 2-hopper to Flores at second. And he throws out Davis one away. Now, I don't know how much you've gotten to see Wilmer Flores playing second base, Keith, but for a big kid who they always say he doesn't have a position, he's looked awfully comfortable playing second base so far this spring.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of him yet. He's had a couple opportunities. He is a big guy. I'm trying to think. He reminds me of an infielder. I believe for the Phillies or someone that was tall and lanky like him, and I just can't think of him.
There's Kevin Russo, who's got a couple of hits today.
hey, you'll do anything to get into the big leagues.
Well, when you talk about a big kid who's, there for his bat and figures out how to play second base, the guy I always come back to is Jeff Kent, who early in his career was not a good second baseman at all, but grew into the position, became a fortress at turning the double play, and of course has more home runs than any second baseman in history.
Of course, he came over to the Mets in that big trade. David Cohn of Toronto.
Ryan Thompson and Jeff Kent in that trade. There's Al Albuquerque in the Tigers bullpen. On the outside corner, and Russo down looking. Went around on the swing anyway, and that's the first strikeout for Atchison, who's faced 3 and retired them all. You look at Scott Atchison in the clubhouse, and you think he's one of the coaches, but he can still throw.
He threw it just for men at me in the clubhouse the other day. Really?
Well, you guys could share. 2 out and nobody on. Now on to Sail Garcia, who was responsible for the Tigers' 2 runs, an opposite field home run in the 5th inning. And Garcia takes inside. Garcia didn't hit a home run for the Tigers in his brief stint with them late last season and into the postseason. But he certainly has got pop at 6'3", 240 pounds.
Got good movement, Atchison, on his ball. And that's just hoping that that elbow holds out.
Well, he had Tommy John surgery when he was in college at TCU many years ago, and he just didn't want to have it again. So he decided to rehab that elbow last summer, missed about 2 months. And you were talking about how much work he got. 42 games, having missed half a season. That's a lot of games.
In the first half.
2 hopper for Hicks at shortstop. And a 1-2-3 inning for Scott Atchison, who faces 4 and retires them all. That sends us to the bottom of the 8th with the Mets leading the Tigers 6-2. Nice cabin cruiser. What would that run you?
It's
a big ticket, right?
What would it run you on a year's maintenance?
Mets single game tickets for the 2013 season at Citi Field, far less expensive, are on sale now. Get your tickets for Mets opening day, the Subway Series, and the rest of the All-Star season. Tickets start at $12 at Mets.com or by phone at 718-507-TIXX. Ticket operators are standing by right now. Al Albuquerque on to pitch for the Tigers, and John Buck takes a strike.
I didn't know there was an Albuquerque.
Yes, you did. 1-1 to Buck. Anthony Recker, who's up for the first time, took over for John Buck behind the plate. Bobby Parnell getting ready to pitch the 9th inning in the Mets bullpen. Albuquerque spent most of last year on the disabled list, rebounding from elbow surgery, and Recker wrecks one down the left field line. So for the second straight inning, the Mets get a leadoff double. Cowgill in the 7th, and now Recker in the 8th.
Big kid, down and in, goes down and gets it. They got to upgrade their music here at Tradition.
It's old.
They just maybe the tape will wear out.
Wilmer Flores up for the first time as the Tiger bullpen stays busy. And Flores lifts one to right, not too deep. Recker goes back to tag, but he'll have to stay put as Garcia makes the catch for the first out. So one away. Now Dendecker comes up. There's Greg Ross up in the Detroit bullpen. Dendecker's played the whole game in center field. 0 for 3, hasn't had the ball out of the infield. Albuquerque was a big contributor for the Tigers 2 years ago. Pitched to a 1.87 ERA, but then had a stress fracture in his elbow that required surgery and cost him most of last year. But that's yet another good arm in that bullpen to go with. Rondon is going to be the closer. Joaquin Benoit, Octavio Dotel, who still is going strong. Looks like the Tigers will have just one lefty in that bullpen, and Phil Koch. He really found a home as a relief pitcher last year.
They got him from the Yankees
because they tried him first as a starter in Detroit, and it did not go well. And Dendecker grounds one over the bag, and that's a fair ball. That's the second out. Over to third goes Recker with 2 away. And now Colin Cowgill will try and get him home.
Now batting number 4, the designated hitter, Colin Cowgill.
That started the day facing Justin Verlander. That was not a productive 3 innings. It was for Verlander. He retired all 9 to face him, but the Mets have scored against each of the previous 4 relief pitchers they've seen from the Tigers, and now trying to scratch against Albuquerque in the 8th. Cowgill has batted once, and he drove a double high off the wall in left center and scored a run in the 7th. Stopped by Payne, who's played the whole game behind the plate. And that keeps the runner at third. Cowgill now has 7 hits in 12 at-bats in spring training, including 4 extra base hits. You want to make an early impression? He's doing exactly that.
Just perfect, trying to make a ball club. He had kind of equal stints with Arizona, then Oakland. Came up mid-season around 30, 40 games. I think 269 with Arizona. 269 with Arizona, 230 something with Oakland. Flip it.
Around, yeah.
So he really hasn't had a chance to play every day. So this is a big opportunity.
No, he's had fewer than 200 big league at bats. He goes down swinging here. That's the third out. And so Bobby Parnell will take over the baseball in the 9th, trying to put the close on a 6-2 Met lead. Monday, back on SNY as the Mets take on the Braves here in Port St. Lucie, 1 o'clock Monday afternoon. That's our next SNY telecast. We'll be with you tomorrow on Picks 11 as the Mets take on the Marlins.
I'll be here with you.
You got your Picks shirt all ready?
I got one in my closet. It's the proper Kurt. I will wear the proper attire, Mr. Gowdy.
You're always impeccably dressed. Bobby Parnell on to try and finish it off as Don Kelly, who's played the whole game at third base, takes ball one. Kelly's 0 for 3, a ground ball double play and a couple of fly balls. Parnell's looked very good so far this spring. Couple of outings, no runs, 1 hit in 2 innings. Right now with Frank Francisco still on the sidelines nursing his elbow, Parnell stands to be the closer once the Mets convene on opening day. Whether or not that proves to be a role that Bobby thrives in remains to be seen, but there's no question that his career seemed to turn a corner last season.
Well, we mentioned it yesterday that you get certain players that cross paths with you, and Jason Isringhausen taught him the knuckle curve, and you know, look what it did. You know, you just keep your ears open. You're always a sponge. It's never too late to learn or try something.
It's amazing when you think about Jason Isringhausen arriving on the scene with the Mets in spectacular fashion in 1995, never quite fulfilling his promise, coming back to the Mets later. It may be that his lasting legacy with the Mets is Bobby Parnell.
Yep.
2-2 to Kelly, and a tapper to shortstop for Brandon Hicks. And a high throw, but a tag made by Lutz, and they get Kelly at first base for the first out.
Well, routine ground ball, high hop. Nicely done by Lutz.
Now batting, number 77, the shortstop.
1 out and nobody on. Now Eugenio Suarez, who took over at shortstop for Argenis Diaz, his first at bat after playing an A ball last year. You see the numbers, high on base percentage. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Coming up tonight at 10:30, it's Geico Sports Night. Everything related to today's game and everything New York sports all in one concise package on Geico Sports Night tonight at 10:30. That is an ugly looking swing, and Parnell makes the play on Suarez for the second out. Wow.
Our sadistic director will show you again, Mr. Webb.
So Parnell gets a couple of ground balls. I mentioned this on a telecast earlier this spring. Bobby Parnell had the most pronounced ground ball to fly ball ratio of any Mets pitcher last year. Almost 2.5 ground balls for every fly ball. And between the incorporation of that curveball and the introduction of a 2-seam fastball that's worked for him as well, he has become not only a guy who can throw hard, but a guy who can generate weak contact and get ground ball outs. So the Tigers down to their final out of the afternoon. Coburnis grounds another one. So 3 ground balls for Parnell, and the easiest of 1, 2, 3 innings to put the capper on a 6-2 Mets victory and send David Wright off to the World Baseball Classic with a victory. Mets get their second win of the spring against 3 losses. A tidy performance started by John Neese and finished off by Bobby Parnell.
Well, I think the important thing is Neese got a nice 3 innings of work in, scoreless, 3 hits, 3 strikeouts, no walks. A couple nice performances. I thought Atchison looked wonderful in an inning and a third. Those are positions that are in that bullpen that are up in the air. Colin Cowgill again with a double. So anytime you win, what did Murph say? Back with a happy recap.
A couple of hits for Marlon Byrd and Justin Turner as well as the Mets win at 6-2. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By W.B. Mason. By Toyota. Buy a Toyota right now and save big. To learn more, visit Toyota.com. And by Xerox, ready for real business. Mets defeat Justin Verlander and the Tigers. Well, they didn't do much against Verlander, but they do win at 6-2. Tomorrow, It's the Mets and the Marlins here in Port St. Lucie. Our coverage begins on Pix 11 tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Our next SNY telecast Monday afternoon when the Mets take on the Braves. Now for Keith Hernandez and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Cohen in Port St. Lucie. We'll see you right back out there tomorrow afternoon over on Pix 11.